Hey everybody, welcome back to the Movie Couple channel. I'm Wendy and here is my review for The Rhythm Section. The Rhythm Section is directed by Morano and stars Blake Lively, Jude Law, and Sterling K. Brown. Based on the novel by Mark Burnell, The Rhythm Section follows the story of Stephanie Patrick. Years after losing her parents and siblings in a plane crash, she comes to find out it was not an accident and seeks revenge. Before I went into this movie, I actually didn't see the trailer. I knew of the plot from doing a little bit of research online. I like Blake Lively. I like Morano's work. If you don't know, she directed and produced the first 3 episodes of Handmaid's Tale, which is one of my favorite shows. So I thought, you know what? Sometimes it's refreshing to go into a film not having seen the trailer, and there are just so many elements already that I liked about the film that I was like, yeah, sure, why not? Let's just go in and watch it. So, like I said earlier, this is a story about Stephanie Patrick, and she loses her family, both her parents and siblings, in a plane crash. Basically, after that, years later, we find Stephanie. She is left a completely different kind of a woman. She is emotionally broken. She's turned to drugs, so she has an addiction problem, and she has turned to prostitution to kind of help her habit. So this is a very different Stephanie than what we saw at the beginning of the film in the montages with her family, who is like happy, bright-eyed young woman, and now she's just this like broken shell of a human after the tragedy. She finds out that the plane crash was not an accident, and she decided that she wants to find out, to get to the bottom of it, who was involved, why it happened, and seek revenge. So that's what was really exciting for me, because like I love seeing ladies kick ass on screen, in the vein of Atomic Blonde, Black Widow. We can even put like Red Sparrow in there. Just like, I didn't love that movie, but you guys kind of get what I mean, like the espionage, assassin type of thing. So I love that. So the premise is that Stephanie follows this trail, but she is not an assassin. She is just an everyday girl who went through something really terrible and now wants to seek revenge. So she goes and she finds Jude Law's character, who's a former MI6 agent, and she says, please teach me. He reluctantly does it, but he does help her out. Teaches her how to, fight, how to wield a weapon, kind of gets her clean. That's one of the first things he had to do. So I would say up until that point in the movie where she finally meets up with Jude Law was actually a really, really slow moving movie. They focused a lot on these scenes that are like flashback to Stephanie's family and happier times, to her time while she was involved in prostitution, and they kind of like flashes back and forth and back and forth. And I feel like it's kind of a way to tell us that she's in a haze and she's drugged up and stuff like that. But those moments lived too long for my personal preference. It just went on forever, and I kind of felt it got to the point where I thought, we understand, let's propel the story forward. And when a movie does that, sometimes it's just repeated footages and things like that, but it's not helping to move the story forward. You're trying to drive a point home, and you already have driven the point home. It just becomes not interesting to me. So it moved rather slowly, and those flashbacks and flash forwards and the shots that you see a lot actually in Handmaid's Tale, when I'll use Offred as an example since she's the main protagonist in the show, is these like really close shots of just her face, just a little bit above the shoulder, cropped very, very close, and it's like intense acting, because it's what Elizabeth Moss is really good at, is telling these stories and her emotions through her eyes, and they wanted to capture, and maybe that's Reed's style, I don't know, because that's what I know from Handmaid's Tale, and that was consistent through the series. This was consistent through the movie, but I felt like it didn't really work as well because it was just slow, and I am not saying that Blake's acting was poor. It was not. In fact, she was my favorite thing. Well, her, Jude Law, and Sterling K. Brown they're fantastic actors. Blake really carried this movie on her shoulders. This is the most different of a type of a character that I've ever seen her play, and she does it phenomenally. Like everything physically, she just portrayed it in such a different way. Her walk is different, the way she stands is different, her face and everything is just like a whole different raw emotion. I absolutely loved it. But these shots, they focused on it for so long, and I felt like it wasn't taking the movie anywhere, and I felt like we were just stuck in time, and you could kind of feel the whole theater, the audience, at the screening I went to, just people were a little like, okay, we get it. Let's move on to the next thing. Because you do want to see the story evolve, and you do want to see where she goes. And of course, there is no spoilers in this review. So don't worry about that. I'm not going to give anything away. But after her training with Jude Law's character, she sets off on the mission. It's kind of like dipping her toe essentially into the assassin's world, which she may be trained, but she is still not used to it. You know, it's not like she grew up in a program or she was young and she did this. It was brand new. She was driven by her need for revenge. So it was kind of raw to see the way she approached certain missions and contracts and things like that. And I appreciate that. Honestly, the movie started off really, really slow. It ramped up as she, would complete her missions or contracts. And as we get towards the end, it continues to, obviously wind up more to the big finish. But that was really towards the end of the film where a lot of the times I felt myself sitting there waiting for something to happen. And like I said earlier, I just felt like I was stuck in time and I wasn't moving forward and I lost a lot of interest. The actions were okay. The acting was fantastic. I loved Blake in this. I already am a big fan of Sterling K. Brown. I'm a big fan of Jude Law. So all three of them really delivered as far as acting goes. The story is okay. I just felt like the delivery of the film, the portrayal of the story itself wasn't as strong as I would have liked, because I really was left feeling like I was waiting for something to happen and not a lot happened. I felt like there were some plot holes that they didn't, it's just like they could have used the time when they were frozen on a character's face to fill up those plot holes or give us something else that continues to fill out the story a little bit more instead of focusing on those shots. But those, again, maybe that's just a personal preference, but I felt like it left me wanting more, but not in a good way. I just felt like it wasn't a well-rounded full story delivery. So to give you my rating for the rhythm section, I'm going to give this movie a skip it. I felt like for an assassination / revenge movie, I felt like there should have been a little bit more urgency and a little bit more of a thrill behind it. And those, for me, were few and far in between. Acting was absolutely fantastic, but I honestly am going to give this movie a skip it because I probably wouldn't want to go and sit through the duration of this movie in theater again. Alright guys, well thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you can stay updated to all the new videos we have out. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you next time.